I found our anniversary gift listed for sale on her secret dating profile. It was Tuesday, just like any other Tuesday, except it wasn't. It was the Tuesday I discovered my whole world was a lie, painted in shades of betrayal I'd never imagined. The air in our small, overpriced apartment, usually thick with the comforting scent of her vanilla candles and the faint hum of the city outside our window, felt suddenly cold and sterile, like a morgue. I was staring at my laptop screen, the glow illuminating the stark reality that had just crashed down on me. This was heavy, man, like heavyweight championship of bad news heavy. And look, before we dive any deeper into this mess, seriously, if you're feeling this, or you know someone who is, hit that subscribe button, like this video, share it with your friends, and definitely drop a comment below. Your thoughts mean the world, and honestly, it helps keep this whole thing going. It's a tough ride, but knowing I'm not alone and that you guys are listening makes a damn difference. So yeah, hit those buttons. Okay, back to the nightwear. I was supposed to be looking up reviews for that artisanal coffee grinder Sarah had been obsessing over for months. Our anniversary was next week, and I'd finally caved. It was a splurge, sure, but she deserved it. She'd been working so hard, putting in those insane hours at the law firm, juggling demanding clients, always coming home exhausted, but still managing to be her. My Sarah. The one who'd picked out the hideous but strangely charming lamp in the living room. The one who'd cried during that sappy rom-com last week. The one who, I thought, loved me. I scrolled through a few sites comparing prices when a notification popped up on a sidebar. It was a dating app, one I hadn't even realized she'd still had installed. I'd deleted mine ages ago after we'd gotten serious. Deleting it felt like a commitment, a statement. Apparently, not for her. Curiosity, that insidious little serpent, slithered into my gut. I clicked. It wasn't just a dating app, it was the dating app. The one her friends had been on when we first met. The one everyone swore they deleted but secretly kept. Her profile picture, a candid shot from a picnic last summer, was still there. Her smile, so familiar, so genuine, it made my chest ache, a dull throb that I had mistakenly attributed to fatigue. But then I scrolled down. Her bio. It was vague, almost poetic, full of longing for adventure and someone to share it with. Standard stuff, I guess, for someone trying to catch attention. But then I saw it. A listing. Under a section for items for sale, or things I'm looking to get rid of. It was a description, detailed and precise, of the very coffee grinder I was about to buy. Almost new, barely used, perfect condition, it read. Seeking a quick sale, need the cash for unexpected expenses. Unexpected expenses. The words echoed in the suddenly silent room. My apartment, our sanctuary, felt like a stage set, the props meticulously arranged to fool me. The scent of vanilla felt cloying now, artificial. The city hum outside, once a comforting backdrop to our life, now sounded like a low, menacing growl. I felt a tremor start in my hands, then spread through my arms, my chest, my entire body. It wasn't just disbelief, it was a cold, creeping dread, a sickening realization that the foundation I'd built my life on was crumbling. I tried to rationalize. Maybe she was selling it for a friend? Maybe she'd gotten it as a gift and didn't like it, and this was her way of recouping some money without hurting my feelings. But the profile was undeniably hers. The pictures, the quirks of her writing style, even the way she used ellipses, it was all Sarah. And the fact that it was listed under the guise of a dating profile, alongside descriptions of her availability and interests, that sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. I clicked on other listings. A designer handbag I'd bought her for her birthday last year, a delicate silver necklace, a souvenir from our trip to Chicago. Each item was a stab, a confirmation of a betrayal I was still struggling to comprehend. This wasn't just selling old stuff. This was a systematic dismantling of our shared life, piece by piece. For what? Cash? For some clandestine rendezvous? The thought sent a surge of heat to my face, a mixture of anger and shame. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like a fool who'd been walking around with blinders on. Sarah was supposed to be home in an hour. An hour? What was I supposed to say? Hey honey, I noticed you're hawking our anniversary gifts on your secret dating profile? The words felt clumsy, absurd. I closed the dating app, but the image of the coffee grinder nestled amongst pleas for connection was seared into my brain. I opened a new tab and started typing, my fingers flying across the keyboard, a frantic attempt to document this, to make it real, to have some kind of control in a situation where I felt utterly powerless. I started writing down everything I remembered about Sarah. The day we met, at that crowded dive bar downtown, her laugh cutting through the din. The first time she stayed over, how awkward and sweet it was, us fumbling through making breakfast. The way she'd instinctively reached for my hand when we walked down a busy street, a small gesture that had felt like the biggest declaration of love. I remembered the late-night talks, the shared dreams, the inside jokes. We were supposed to be building a future, a life together. And now it felt like she'd been busy liquidating our assets. The anger began to simmer, a low, steady burn beneath the shock. How could she, after everything, after I'd put her first, rearranged my entire life to make space for her, sacrificed opportunities because they weren't our opportunities? I thought of all the times I'd dismissed her late nights at work as dedication, her occasional withdrawn moods as stress. Was this the real reason for her secrecy? For her constant need for alone time? I remember feeling so proud of her ambition. She was a shark in the boardroom, and I admired that. I told myself she needed her space to be that person, and I was happy to support her, to be her rock. But now, the thought of her alone time twisted into something ugly. Was she meeting people? Was this why she always kept her phone on silent or out of reach? I'd always accepted her excuses, her vague explanations. I was the good guy, the patient partner. And she was, what? A master manipulator? My mind raced, replaying conversations, scrutinizing past events through this new, horrifying lens. That weekend trip she took with her work friends to wine country, was that really a work trip? The unexplained credit card charges I'd sometimes see on her statements, the ones she'd brush off as miscellaneous expenses, they all clicked into place with a sickening finality. It wasn't just about the coffee grinder, or the handbag, or the necklace. It was about the lies, the pervasive deceit that had woven itself into the fabric of our relationship. I stared at the coffee grinder listing again. Seeking a quick sale, need the cash for unexpected expenses. What were these expenses? Rent? Bills? Or was it for him? Him? The unnamed benefactor of her secret life? The anger surged again, hot and raw. I wanted to smash something, to scream until my throat was raw. But I just sat there, frozen, the glow of the laptop screen the only light in the darkening room. I remembered a conversation we'd had a few months back. She'd been upset about something, crying into my shoulder. She'd said she felt trapped, like she was suffocating. I'd held her, told her we'd figure it out, that whatever it was, we'd face it together. She just nodded, her face buried in my chest. At the time, I'd thought she meant her job or some personal insecurity. Now, I wondered if she'd meant us, if she'd meant me. The weight of it all was crushing. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving me gasping for breath. Every memory, every shared laugh, every intimate moment felt tainted, recontextualized as part of an elaborate charade. Was any of it real? Had she ever truly loved me, or was I just a convenient placeholder until something better came along, or until her secret life could fully support itself? The sound of keys jingling outside the door jolted me back to the present. My heart hammered against my ribs. She was home. I quickly minimized the dating app, my hands still trembling. I couldn't let her see this. Not yet. I needed to think, to process, to figure out what the hell I was going to do. I stood up, my legs feeling like they were made of lead, and walked into the living room, trying to school my features into a neutral mask.
The vanilla scent, stronger now, felt like a suffocating shroud. The lamp she'd picked out seemed to mock me with its quirky charm. She walked in, her work bag slung over her shoulder, a tired smile on her face. "Hey babe," she said, her voice the melody I'd always loved. "Rough day?" She tossed her keys into the ceramic bowl by the door, the familiar clatter a stark contrast to the turmoil raging inside me. I forced a smile, a shaky imitation of my usual self. "Just another Tuesday," I managed, my voice sounding distant, alien. She leaned in to kiss me, and for a fleeting moment, I recoiled. Her lips, the lips that had whispered promises, now felt like they belonged to a stranger. She pulled back, a flicker of concern in her eyes. "Everything okay?" she asked, her brow furrowed. I looked at her, at the woman I thought I knew, the woman who was now a complete enigma, a beautifully crafted illusion. And in that moment, surrounded by the props of our shared life, I knew that nothing would ever be okay again. The anniversary gift, a symbol of our planned future, was now a monument to its destruction. I stood there, a hollowed-out shell, watching her move through our apartment, a ghost in her own home, and I knew I was already alone. The thought was a cold, sharp blade, twisting in the wound. The smile she gave me was the one that used to melt my insides, the one that promised quiet mornings and whispered secrets. Now it felt like a performance, a practiced move in a game I hadn't even realized I was losing. "Yeah," I said, my voice a little too loud, a little too strained. "Just tired." I watched her shed her blazer, the familiar ritual of her coming home, and each movement felt like a tiny betrayal, a reminder of the performance she was capable of. She ran a hand through her hair, sighing. "You wouldn't believe the day I had. Miller is being an absolute nightmare about the Kendrick contract. I swear I'm gonna lose my mind." She headed towards the kitchen, her voice carrying back to me, a stream of legal jargon and client complaints I'd once found fascinating. Now it just sounded like noise, like the static on a broken radio trying to transmit a clear signal. I followed her, my own movements stiff, my thoughts a chaotic storm. Coffee. She always made coffee when she was stressed. The familiar whir of the grinder, the hiss of the machine. It was a soundtrack to my life, a life that was unraveling thread by thread. I watched her measure out the beans, her fingers moving with practiced ease. Was that the same grinder? The one I'd seen listed for sale? The one that represented a piece of our life being auctioned off to the highest bidder on a ghost profile? My gut clenched. I could feel a tremor starting in my chest, a low thrumming that was both fear and a burgeoning, dangerous rage. "Something on your mind?" she asked, her voice softer now, directed at me as she turned around, a mug in each hand.
Her eyes, those clear blue eyes that had always held a mirror to my soul, seemed to search mine. I wondered what she saw. Did she see the man who was piecing together her betrayal, or the oblivious fool she'd been playing? I forced myself to meet her gaze. "No," I lied, the word tasting like ash. "Just thinking about our anniversary. You know, planning." She smiled again, a genuine smile this time, I think. Or maybe she was just a good actress. "Oh, right, next week. I've been thinking about it too. We should do something special." She handed me a mug, the warmth seeping into my hands. It felt like a cruel joke. Special. What was special about a life built on deception? "Yeah," I said, taking a sip of the bitter liquid. It did nothing to soothe the burning in my throat. "Definitely." We sat at the small dining table, the same one where we'd had countless intimate dinners, where we'd debated politics and planned our futures. Now it felt like a witness stand. She talked about her day, about the ridiculous demands of her job, about the latest office gossip. I nodded. I made sympathetic noises. I even managed a few jokes. It was an Oscar-worthy performance, I thought bitterly. I was playing the part of the devoted, slightly oblivious boyfriend, while inside I was a forensic scientist, meticulously cataloging evidence of her infidelity. And it wasn't just the dating profile. The more I thought, the more the pieces started to connect, forming a picture I desperately didn't want to see. That late night she'd worked late at the office, the one where she'd come home smelling faintly of expensive cologne, not hers. The time she'd been unreachable for hours, her phone conveniently dead. The sudden interest in going out with her friends, always without me, when she used to prefer quiet nights in.
Each memory was a fresh stab wound. "You know," she said, her voice suddenly thoughtful, interrupting my morbid reverie, "I've been thinking about getting rid of some stuff. You know, decluttering. Like that old painting my aunt gave us. It's just gathering dust. And that hideous lamp in the living room?" My breath hitched. The hideous, but strangely charming lamp. The one she'd insisted on buying. The one that made her laugh every time she looked at it. "The lamp?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. She shrugged, taking another sip of her coffee. "Yeah, it's so not us anymore. Just a reminder of a phase, I guess. We should only keep things that bring us joy, right?" Her words were so innocent, so disarmingly normal, and yet they landed like grenades in the quiet room. A phase. Was our entire relationship a phase to her? A temporary stopgap before she found something or someone better? I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her until the truth spilled out of her. But I couldn't. Not yet. I didn't have all the pieces. I didn't have the full story.
And a part of me, a stupid, broken part of me, still wanted to believe that I was wrong, that this was all a terrible misunderstanding. But the dating profile, the items for sale, the vague explanations for her absences, it was all too much to ignore. "So," I said, forcing myself to sound casual, to keep the tremor out of my voice, "what kind of stuff were you thinking of selling?" It was a trap, I knew. A stupid, risky trap. But I needed to know. I needed to hear her say it, to see the flicker of recognition, the confession in her eyes. She hesitated for a beat, and my heart leaped into my throat. "Oh, you know," she said, her gaze drifting out the window toward the city lights. "Just old things, things we don't need anymore, like that extra set of luggage we never use, or some of my old electronics." Her eyes flickered back to me, a quick, almost imperceptible movement. "Why? You looking for something?" My stomach churned. Old electronics, the coffee grinder, the handbag, the necklace. It was all there, laid out before me, but I couldn't touch it, not without revealing that I knew, that I had been watching. "No," I said, shaking my head, trying to appear nonchalant. "Just curious." I watched her closely, searching for any sign of guilt, any hint of discomfort. She seemed to relax, to dismiss my question as idle curiosity. That was the worst part, her complete lack of suspicion. It meant she was good. So good, I'd been completely fooled. The silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken words and hidden truths. I could feel the tension radiating off me, a palpable energy that I was sure she must be sensing. But she just continued to sip her coffee, her gaze fixed on the distant cityscape, as if she were contemplating a new horizon, a different future. And I knew, with a crushing certainty, that it wasn't a future that included me. I stood up, the scrape of the chair against the floor sounding like a gunshot in the quiet apartment. "I think I'm going to head to bed," I said, my voice flat. "Early morning tomorrow." She turned, her expression one of mild surprise. "Already?" We just sat down. "Yeah," I lied again, the effort of it exhausting me. "Got a lot on my mind." I walked towards our bedroom, each step a struggle. She didn't follow. She never did, not the door softly behind me. I leaned against it, my eyes closed, trying to control the ragged breaths that were racking my body. The room was dark, save for the faint glow of the city lights filtering through the blinds. It was our room, our sanctuary, and it felt like a cage. I could hear her moving around in the living room, the faint clatter of dishes as she cleaned up. Each sound was a reminder of her presence, her life, a life that was clearly separate from mine, even when we were under the same roof.
I walked over to the dresser, my hands shaking as I opened the top drawer. It was filled with her things, her jewelry, her scarves, the little trinkets she collected. I sifted through them, my fingers brushing against the familiar textures, the scents that were uniquely hers. And then my hand closed around something small and hard, a spare key. Not our apartment key, but a different one. A key to what? Another apartment? A locker? A safe deposit box? My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear and anticipation. I pulled it out, holding it up in the dim light. It was a plain silver key, indistinguishable from any other. But the fact that she had a spare, hidden away, suggested a level of secrecy I hadn't even begun to fathom. Why would she need a secret key? What was she hiding? My mind raced, conjuring up 100 terrifying possibilities. Was she living a double life, meeting someone else in secret? Was this key to their shared sanctuary? I looked at the key, then at her side of the bed, the pillows still perfectly arranged, untouched. The thought of her slipping out in the dead of night, using this hidden key to go where? With whom? It was a betrayal on a whole new level, a violation of the trust that was supposed to be the bedrock of our relationship. My gaze fell on her bedside table. There was a framed photo of us, taken on a beach last summer, laughing, our faces sunburned and happy. She'd insisted on printing it, on displaying it prominently. A cruel irony, I thought now, looking at our smiling faces, oblivious to the storm that was brewing. Underneath the photo, tucked away, was a small, leather-bound journal. I'd never seen it before. It was closed, but the worn edges suggested it had been read and reread many times. My hand trembled as I reached for it. This was crossing a line, I knew, but the anger, the fear, the need to know, it was a wildfire raging inside me, consuming all my reservations. I picked it up, the leather cool against my fingertips. It felt heavy, filled with secrets. I hesitated for a moment, the gravity of what I was about to do pressing down on me. This was no longer about just finding out she was selling gifts. This was about uncovering the true extent of her deception, about peeling back the layers of the woman I thought I knew to find out who she really was. With a deep, shaky breath, I opened the journal. The pages were filled with her handwriting, neat and precise, but the words themselves were raw, unfiltered, and devastating. The first entry, dated about 6 months ago, was a torrent of frustration and longing. "I can't do this anymore," she'd written, the ink smudged in places, as if she'd been crying as she wrote. "He's everything I ever wanted, and I'm trapped here. He thinks I'm happy, but he doesn't see how I'm suffocating. This life, it's not enough. He's good, he's kind, but he's not him. Him." The word echoed in my head, a phantom presence in the room. Who was him?
Was it the recipient of her secret sales? Was it the man whose cologne I'd smelled? I flipped through more pages, the entries becoming more frequent, more desperate. She wrote about secret meetings, about the thrill of their stolen moments, about the guilt and the exhilaration. She described him in vivid detail, his eyes, his smile, the way he made her feel alive. "He was everything I wasn't," she wrote. "Adventurous, spontaneous, passionate. He understood her. He saw her. He made her feel like the woman she was meant to be. And I was just the comfortable, predictable, safe harbor she was trying to escape." My hands were shaking so violently now that I could barely hold the journal. Each word was a hammer blow, shattering the last vestiges of my denial. She wasn't just having an affair, she was actively planning a life with someone else. The anniversary gift, the coffee grinder, wasn't just about cash for unexpected expenses, it was about funding her escape. The anger that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted, a volcanic rage that threatened to consume me. I wanted to tear the journal apart, to rip the pages to shreds, to obliterate the evidence of her betrayal. But I couldn't. I had to know everything. I had to understand the full scope of this devastation. Then I found it, an entry from just a few weeks ago. "We're making plans," she'd written. "He's found a place, a small cottage upstate. He wants me to join him as soon as I can. I just need to untangle myself from here. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. For him, for us." A cottage upstate. Untangle herself. The words were a death knell for our relationship, for my life as I knew it. She wasn't just cheating, she was leaving. She had a plan to replace me, to erase me, to build a new life with someone else. I looked at the spare key in my other hand, then back at the journal. A cottage upstate. Was this key for that cottage? Was she planning to leave soon? The thought sent a fresh wave of panic through me. I had
had to do something. I couldn't just sit here and let her walk away, leaving me in the wreckage of our shattered life. I closed the journal, my mind racing. I had the proof now, irrefutable proof of her betrayal, her deceit, her plan to leave me. But what did I do with it? Confront her, present her with the journal, the key, the evidence of her hidden life, the thought of her face, the inevitable denial, the gaslighting. It made me sick. Then I heard the bedroom door creak open. I froze, my heart leaping into my throat. I quickly shoved the journal and the key back into the drawer, slamming it shut with a soft click. I turned, trying to compose myself, to force a neutral expression onto my face. Sarah stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light of the hallway. She looked tired, her hair slightly disheveled, but there was a certain glow about her, a subtle radiance that I hadn't noticed before. Or maybe I had, and I just dismissed it as happiness.
"Can't sleep?" she asked, her voice soft, a hint of concern in her tone. She walked towards the bed, her movements fluid, graceful. She was wearing one of my t-shirts, a habit she'd picked up early on, a sign of their growing intimacy. Now it felt like another layer of intimacy stolen from me. I watched her, my mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Anger warred with a desperate, clinging love. Betrayal twisted with a gut-wrenching pain. And beneath it all, a cold, hard fear. She was standing in our bedroom, looking at me, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that she was no longer the woman I thought I loved. She was a stranger, and she was about to break my world apart completely. She climbed into bed, pulling the covers up to her chin, and turned to face me. Her eyes, those blue eyes that had once held so much promise, now held a secret that was about to shatter me. And as she looked at me, a small, almost imperceptible smile played on her lips, a smile that promised nothing but further devastation. "We need to talk," she said, her voice barely a whisper, and the weight of those 3 words, heavy with unspoken truths and impending heartbreak, descended upon me like a shroud. My breath hitched. The casual pronouncement, the quiet tone, landed like a physical blow. "We need to talk." The classic prelude to disaster, the ominous harbinger of endings. I could feel the blood draining from my face, leaving my skin clammy and cold. The journal, the key, the hidden life, it all converged, the pieces finally clicking into place, forming a mosaic of my own undoing. She lay there, propped up on an elbow, watching me with an unnerving calmness that belied the seismic shift about to occur. It was the calm of someone who had made their decision, who had crossed their Rubicon, and was now merely waiting for the tide to turn. "About what?" I managed, my voice cracking, a pathetic, reedy sound that was a pale imitation of the man I used to be. It was a foolish question, I knew. The answer was hanging in the air between us, thick and suffocating, a miasma of unspoken truths and impending revelations. She shifted, adjusting the pillow behind her head. The gesture was so ordinary, so domestic, it felt like a deliberate cruelty. "About us," she said, her gaze unwavering. "About where we're going. Where we're going." The words were a subtle indictment, a silent accusation of stagnation, of being left behind. My mind flashed back to her journal entries, to the cottage upstate, to the plans she was making. Was this her way of initiating the conversation, of gently guiding me towards the inevitable conclusion? Or was it a calculated move, a way to make me feel responsible for the unraveling of our life? "Where are we going, Sarah?" I asked, my voice gaining a brittle edge. The tremor was back, but this time it was laced with a dangerous current of anger.
The controlled facade I'd been maintaining for weeks was starting to crack, the dam of my composure threatening to burst. She sighed, a soft, almost mournful sound. "I don't think we're going anywhere anymore, Mark. Not together." The words, delivered so plainly, so without preamble, stole the air from my lungs. It wasn't a shout, not an accusation, not a dramatic outburst. It was a simple statement of fact, as if she were announcing the weather forecast. And that, more than anything, was what shattered me. The sheer finality of it, the absolute lack of emotion in her voice, the way she spoke of the end of our life together, as if she were discussing a business merger that had gone south. My mind reeled. The key, the journal, the sold belongings, they were all echoes of this moment, harbingers of this stark pronouncement. I looked at her, at the familiar contours of her face bathed in the dim light, and for the first time, I saw her as a stranger. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd built my life with was gone, replaced by this composed, detached individual who could deliver such devastating news with such chilling equanimity. You're leaving? The question felt absurdly understated. Leaving was too gentle a word for the cataclysm she was describing. She was detonating a bomb in the center of my existence. She nodded, her gaze dropping for a fleeting moment, then returning, resolute. I am. I've met someone, Mark. Someone I love. Someone I want to build a future with. There it was. The him, the adventurer, the understander, the one who made her feel alive. The words hit me with the force of a physical blow, stealing my breath, my strength. I staggered back slightly, my hand instinctively reaching out for the dresser, for something, anything to anchor myself to. The wood was cool and solid beneath my trembling fingers, a stark contrast to the instability that now consumed me. Someone you love, I repeated, the words tasting like bile. And what about me? What about us? My voice was a choked whisper, ragged with a pain so profound it felt like my chest cavity was being ripped open. She met my eyes, and for a flicker I thought I saw something, a shadow of regret, perhaps, a hint of the pain she must have been feeling. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that unnerving resolve. There's nothing left, Mark. We've been growing apart for a long time. We've been living separate lives under the same roof. This is just making it official. Her words were a cold, clinical dissection of my failures, of my inadequacies. She was right, of course. I had been so absorbed in my own suspicions, my own slow-burning rage, that I had missed the signs, had allowed myself to become a ghost in my own life. And now, she was stepping out of the shadows into a brighter, bolder future, leaving me to fade into the darkness. Separate lives. I echoed. So the late nights at the office, the work trips, the sudden need to declutter our shared life, that was all part of your plan to untangle yourself? The journal entries flooded my mind, the words leaping out at me, mocking me with their prescience. She flinched slightly at the mention of decluttering. I didn't want to hurt you, Mark. I couldn't go on pretending anymore. It wasn't fair to either of us. Not fair to me? My voice rose, raw with anguish and disbelief. You call this fair? Selling off pieces of our life? Sneaking around? Building a whole new existence while I was here, oblivious? Thinking we were still us? The anger was starting to consume the pain, a molten core of rage burning through the ruins of my heart. I know it's hard, she said, her voice still maddeningly calm. And I am sorry, truly. But I had to do what was right for me. What was right for me? The selfishness of it, the utter lack of consideration for my feelings, for the life we had built, for the vows we had never officially exchanged but had lived by nonetheless. It was a betrayal that cut deeper than any physical infidelity. It was a betrayal of shared dreams, of unspoken promises, of the very foundation of our being. What was right for you? I spat the words out, each one laced with venom. So this new guy, he's what's right for you? This is the grand adventure? The him who understands you, who makes you feel alive? And I'm just the comfortable, predictable harbor you're sailing away from? I was quoting her journal back to her, using her own words as weapons. She looked away then, her gaze fixed on the window, on the distant cityscape that held the promise of her new life. He is, she said, her voice barely audible. He sees me, Mark. He sees the woman I am, the woman I want to be, and I feel alive with him. The admission, so simple and yet so devastating, hung in the air, a death knell for everything I had believed. I stood there, a ghost in our bedroom, the room that had witnessed our laughter, our arguments, our lovemaking, now a stage for my utter and complete destruction. The spare key, still tucked away in the dresser drawer, felt like a physical representation of her hidden life, a key to a door that was now irrevocably closed to me. Alive, I repeated, the word a hollow echo in the cavernous space of my despair. And I was dead all along, wasn't I? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her silence was a confirmation, a brutal, eloquent testament to my irrelevance. I looked at her, at the woman who had been my world, my everything, and saw only the cold, hard truth. She was gone, and she wasn't coming back. The life I thought I was living, the future I had envisioned, had been a beautiful, elaborate lie. The anger, the pain, the confusion, it all swirled within me, a maelstrom of emotions I couldn't control. I wanted to scream, to rage, to lash out.
But a profound exhaustion settled over me, a weariness that went bone deep. What was the point? She had already made her choice. She had already moved on. So, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, the tremor finally silenced by a grim resignation. When do you untangle yourself completely? I gestured vaguely, encompassing the apartment, the life we had shared. She hesitated. Soon, he's found a place. A cottage, upstate, like you read. Her gaze was direct now, no longer evasive. The confession, the final unvarnished truth. The casual mention of the cottage felt like a final deliberate act of cruelty, a reminder that I hadn't just been fooled, I had been privy to her planning, her escape, and had done nothing. A cottage, I murmured, the word tasting like defeat. Sounds idyllic. It is, she said, a faint smile touching her lips. It wasn't the smile of a lover, but the smile of someone who had found their promised land, a land that did not include me. I turned away from her, from the woman who was no longer mine, and walked towards the window.
The city lights glittered below, a million tiny sparks in the vast darkness. Each one represented a life, a story, a future. And my future, had just been extinguished. I looked at my reflection in the glass, a gaunt, hollowed-out stranger staring back. The man who had loved Sarah, who had believed in their future, was gone, replaced by this shell of a person, adrift in the wreckage of his own life. "I guess," I said, my voice low and rough, directed at the indifferent city. "I should start packing." I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could feel her watching me, the weight of her days a heavy burden. But it no longer held any power over me. The magic was broken. The illusion shattered. All that remained was the stark, unvarnished reality of a love lost, a life dismantled, and the slow, agonizing process of picking up the pieces. I walked out of the bedroom, leaving her in the dim light, the silence of the apartment amplifying the sound of my own hollow footsteps. The door clicked shut behind me, a final, definitive punctuation mark on the end of our story. The night air, cool against my face as I stepped out onto the fire escape, felt like the first breath of a man who had just been reborn, albeit into a world that was utterly, terrifyingly unknown. The journey ahead was uncertain, the path shrouded in fog. But for the first time in months, the fog wasn't Sarah's deception. It was my own future, waiting to be written. And in that bleak realization, in that quiet surrender, there was a fragile, nascent flicker of something that might, just might, resemble peace.